welcome. Last year, a book called The Immortals of Meluha created quite a splash in the publishing world, marrying ancient Indian culture with Hindu mythology, with large dollops of imagination. It created a racy narrative that got the book a lot of fans. So much so that the sequel to the book, which was released in August, called The Secret of the Nagas, saw about 80,000 pre-release orders. Today, my guest and beautiful people is the writer or author of both these books. Please welcome Amish Tripathi. Amish, it's interesting that I say your full name here because people who read your book will know you just as Amish, isn't it?
Yes,
and
Anuradha, yes.
There's a philosophical rationale to this.
Yeah, look, my books have, there are core philosophies that I want to convey through my books.
Clearly.
One of the philosophies is that we should be judged only by our karma, not what our caste is, not what our religion is, not what region we are from, not what language we speak. My surname is a caste surname. So I thought, to be true to the philosophy of the book, I shouldn't use it on the cover of my book. Of course, I have to use it for my contacts, etc. It won't be legal without my surname. But I've dropped my surname for the cover of the book.
Is it fair to say that the philosophy was the starting point for the storytelling?
Absolutely. The book actually began as a pure philosophy treatise, nearly 8.5 years back.
And then got dressed like this in terms of the story.
It started as my philosophy of what is evil.
Right.
It's a bit like what Vedvyasji did. It's, myths say that Vedvyasji compiled the Vedas. He didn't create it, but he compiled it. And he wrote the Mahabharata to convey the philosophies of the Vedas. And of course, Vedvyasji is a god amongst writers. But that's, if you can call it, the role model.
There are 2-3 things in the Immortal of Meluhas which then get taken forward in the Secret of the Nagas, which is the second book. The first is good or bad can be relative. Sometimes what is evil is just fear of the unknown. Or what you don't know, what is different from what you are,
yes.
Right? Yes. The second thing is the caste system and what India has known of the caste system. You have a different interpretation of it, isn't it? You say that in this world you created of Meluha, kids from families would be sent off to this school, and then based on their skill, talent, and therefore their professional connections, would then be assigned to families that came from there, and that's how the family caste system came about. Very, very interesting thoughts. Women, okay, so whether it's Sati or all the other characters in your books, very clearly women as warriors, women as intellectuals, women as equals. These are some of the things that have come out. How much of this is utopian, which is your idea of what Indian society should be like? How much of this is what you genuinely believe our mythology and maybe even religious texts are telling us?
Well, part of it is utopian. I have not read any concept anywhere in the world of a real life scenario like the Maika system that I described in the book. I don't think that that existed. But was the caste system flexible? Certainly so. Valmiki ji wrote the Ramayana. He is respected as one of the greatest philosophers in India. But he was born a low caste person. He was a highway robber. So which meant that in those days, caste system was a lot more flexible. If you read the Valmiki Ramayana, Sita ji is a much stronger character in that Ramayana. How we know Sita ji is the 16th century modernization of the Valmiki Ramayana, the Ramcharitmanas, by which time the society, the status of women had come down quite a lot, and Tulsidas ji showed women the way they were in his times. So I believe that in the ancient era, women had a far greater place in society, and I think it's good for India that women's status is improving, because that takes us back to what I believe was our natural state of being.
What do you think was the key impact that your first book had, not in terms of the number of copies it sold, but in terms of what people took away from it, based on the feedback you've got, you think?
Quite a few. I was quite delighted by emails from people who are non-Hindus. And that to me shows the innate secular spirit of India.
That's interesting, because when I was reading your first book, it disconcerted me a bit. In fact, it made me a little uncomfortable, because in creating the country of Meluha, or in creating the country and civilization of Meluha, you talked about Ram Raja and the law of the rules according to Ram, the Hindu god and king, and all the Jai Shri Rams, all of that disturbed me slightly, I must admit, because I wonder if this becomes if that's your philosophy, which is Hindu right wing, and B, if it is something that Hindu right-wingers can use at some point. You're a popular guy because people are reading your book.
Okay. this is something that must be debated. I believe there is a difference between Indian secularism and the Western concept of secularism. Western secularism means denial of religion, or rather even hatred of religion. Indian secularism is active love of my religion and active love of every other religion as well. My father used to tell me when I was young that there's beauty and ugliness in every religion, and it's up to us what we want to see.
So if your book is interpreted by right-wingers as something that they can use for their propaganda, that is something that you would reject and you would feel bad about?
I don't agree with any form of extremism, be it the left-wing extremism or right-wing extremism. I don't agree with either of them. And for me, the true beauty in India is about our celebration of religion and much deeper understanding of it. That is, for me, is the true beauty of India. In my books, for example, the philosophies in it, some of the philosophies are drawn from the Vedas, some of the philosophies are drawn from the Lotus Sutra, some of the philosophies of the Suryavanshi way of life are drawn from Islam. If you actually read the Quran, if you read the life of Prophet Muhammad, it is extremely inspiring, right? Some of the philosophies are drawn from the philosophies of Zarathustra. I believe there is beauty in every single religion, and our life becomes richer if we seek to find that beauty.